What's going on, family? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, subscribe. If you are a returning legend, then smash the like. Either way, I'm your boy DXB Crypto, and in today's video, I want to talk to you about why I believe crypto gaming is going to come back, and it's going to be bigger than ever. Okay, and as always in this channel, we're gonna not just talk about what we like, but we want to try and use some metrics to see whether the thesis I'm presenting to you in this video is true or not. So I can guarantee most people watching this video own a crypto-related gaming or Web3 gaming project. Now, I've been looking at these trends for many months, and people always ask me, DXB, gaming is not, guys, the trend is your friend until the end. We've not seen these levels since 21, right? You're seeing crypto gaming now really from January, especially in the months of June and July, really taking off. That smart money accumulating, while most of the other people there, i.e. the likes of me and you, are sitting down and maybe perhaps selling at a loss of what we've been accumulating for a couple of years now, which is rather stupid. But without the data, unfortunately, people are going to make this mistake. So what's happened during that time? I mean, if you're old school OG in the watching this video right now, you do understand gaming has made 50, 100, 200, 1,000 X's in 2021. You know, you remember the likes of Axie, Gala, Sandbox, and even Mana, with no games, right? Apart from Axie Infinity, and of course some Gala game, but no utility really. But what's happened since then? The adoption curve for crypto Web3 gaming has absolutely taken off to the point where millionaires are actually being made through the leaderboards, through Epic Games, PlayStation stores, you know, people trading assets. Over 15 million registered on Play Off the Grid, for example, right? So, adoption is there, and now people are actually trading these assets. Some of these assets are going for 5, 10 Gs. People are buying and selling guns and whatever for a ridiculous amount. Now, that does not translate into a direct pump. Now, if you saw Elliot Trades' sit down with the founder of Avalanche, you'd understand they've made several references again to Play Off the Grid. So you've got the adoption curve happening. You've got the technology accelerated. So now you've got Solana offering you, Solana Play, Pudgy Penguins. It's time to play the Play Solana X Pudgy Penguins limited edition game is now live. So now you're starting to see a crossover between memes and real utility with crypto gaming devices, hardware. And another example of this is the ever-present Sui X Play One, very low latency, trading assets across the Sui blockchain and using Sui as the gas fee for this. So right now, we know adoption is increasing and interest is increasing. We are now seeing the Google Trends reflect Web3 gaming or crypto gaming, and that's all smart money. I can guarantee you now, it's not retail looking at this data and saying, okay, we are going to take advantage. So gaming changed by fully diluted market cap post 2022. So what we have here in the data is, for example, Wax, Topia. If you look at, for example, Beam, Gala, these are just big projects that are being tracked on the Dune Analytics. But you're starting to see, again, I want to show you the curve. Of course, the data does go up to 2024, but the latest data that goes beyond that is also showing an increase in terms of where the adoption curve is happening. So if you look at the entire market cap right now, it just sits in a, tiny $18 billion. And as a result, $18 billion is nothing when you really consider the size of the market cap itself, okay? So let's have a look at this. Let's take a bit more understanding as to why we found ourselves here. So tokens unlocks worth 147 million expected to wreak havoc across crypto projects, and that's including the likes of Immutable X, right? So IMX which is very relevant to our discussion here, as one of the biggest crypto projects, has had these unlocks come in time and time again. But the next one on the 8th is pretty significant. Why am I telling you that? IMX could be seen as the leader in the whole entire space. Okay, so why would you look into a dead narrative, which I'm telling you is starting to wake up, and of course looking at the whole value? In 2022, this was a $128 billion market cap, going up to 154 billion. Okay, currently it is expected to grow by 21% to the year 2030. So the current annual growth rate is 21.8%. So we know there's a lot of money that's going to come into this. People are looking at the data, people are analyzing. So why has crypto gaming not been that great? Well, if you look at everything from the last cycle, it was just a bunch of hope, promises, but lack of utility. But what we're now starting to see with the likes of Gunzilla Games, as soon as they bring more attention into the token utility, soon as they, again, the argument here is they are an expensive studio. Any crypto project that holds that many people in the office is always going to be an expensive overhead. And it was an argument that I've made previously as to why it could struggle. But we're now starting to see a massive dip, but great interest and support from the likes of Avalanche. And I'm not telling you just to buy off the grid alone, but it's an example of where we've come from and where we are going now. Now, you're saying so Gun announces that the token expansion to Solana from AVAX now into Solana, pretty significant, okay? It's on Steam, it's on, everywhere. PlayStation, Xbox. Now, so we know the gaming is way better than any other time in history. We know there's adoption. We know there's millionaires being made, not from buying tokens, but actually trading the game economy. So what projects can we look at and where can we expect things to go from here? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a list of projects depending on the size and, of course, market cap. You can make your own mind. But the first one that I've been screaming at people, this is sub $500 million market cap. This is a layer one built on Avalanche. This is Beam. And I do believe they are miles ahead right now of IMX. Okay. Ethereum's getting better. Necessarily scaling solutions are not really, unless you're building on base. But Beam's for gamers, and I do believe with their $250 million treasury, with their Abu Dhabi investment, I do believe a good, solid 10x is available for Beam. Now, let's look at some metrics. How can you make money from this? So if we look at Beam, and let's compare this to, let's just use Sandbox's last market cap. I think that would be quite a good comparison. So right now, if this went to the all-time high of Sandbox, which was arguably, it's disputed, but let's say it goes to a $6 billion, $6.8 billion market cap from where you're investing right now, that is a clean 19x, right? Relatively, this could actually do, because the tokenomics are way better than IMX, in my opinion, I think this can actually do more. But I'll be happy with anything between 13 cents and maybe if we double that to a top of 20 cents, 26 cents even. So Beam is a no-brainer for me. If you're stressed about losing money, hasn't done a lot, has been disappointing, but they have the ammunition, the guns to be able to go take this to the next level. And again, this is Merit Circle. You guys know the rest. Okay, so Beam is one. Now, number two, let me give you a risky one, okay? This is Moon Tropica, okay? So for every safe one, we're going to try and look at a highly risky asset here. This is a game that is making waves, in my opinion, has a hardcore community, good following on X, great little fun game, and of course, Moon Tropica built on Ethereum, has no centralized listings, and currently sits at a very low market cap of just $4 million, I do believe. It went as low as $2 million. okay? And I do hold some. It is absolutely fun. But you know what I like about it? I like the fanaticism of the community, okay? It is riskier than Beam. So you have to understand for every dollar you invest here, you need to understand that the risk is real. And they've recently made some major moves. So something about those car V1 prototype days, nostalgia, and they have moved to, I do believe they are partners with Elio Trades. Alex Becker talked about this before. And of course, they are officially making big moves, you know, here with Astra AI or Astra Labs, which is another decent AI project. And they're making moves. Very small, highly risky. But what I would say is this is where your 50x's are made in crypto gaming, okay? So if we look at Moon Tropica's car, right, we're not even going to go crazy with this, okay? We're going to say Moon Tropica's car gets to, let me compare this to a project that probably went to 100 or a couple of $100 million, okay? So let's say, what shall I compare it to? Let me just use, for the argument's sake, a project by the name of, let's just do, what's that project? Okay, let me just use Prime as an example of price, okay? So if this goes to a current market cap of where Prime is, Echelon Prime, meaning that it hits $100 million, which is very doable, right? Incredibly doable. That is a tidy $38 and a 22x. Of course, if it does go to, and I'm using this not as a comparison between the market cap of the projects or the gameplay, but just purely using this as a reference metric. If it goes to $1 billion, which I may see half of that, in my opinion, it could do 150 to 300, it could do 100 to 200x. So if you halve this number and this goes to 500 million, you walk away with a whopping 100x potential for your money. Okay, beautiful little game. Doesn't really, does deserve to actually have one last pump. It did actually go to $50 already without a gaming season. Now, next one is Heroes of Mavia. Now, hear me out on this one, okay? Heroes of Mavia, as much as people hate, right, has been really disappointing. But the low amount of tokens, the hype that it received when Ethereum was above 3K, I mean 4K last time, it was absolutely incredible, right? They have made, I have to admit, I have been disappointed with this team. It's very risky, but I have held it all the way, and I do believe just the star lineup of backing alone puts this into the craziest territories you can imagine from a price return. I genuinely do believe that. So if we look at Heroes of Mavia, right, let's use this as an example to where Prime is. So if this gets to $2, you have made 12.6x. $2 is insane. If we say it does really well, this is a 100x token for just $20. Remember what people used to say about this one? Everybody, I mean, some massive YouTubers used to call this a $500, $300, $200 token. Now we're thinking about $20 to get 100x for your money. Is that doable? Absolutely. All-time high for this project was around $10 plus, right? So just double that on price discovery, and with the low market cap, all it has to do is to get to this $1 billion, $900 million, even half of that, a 50x. You know, even minus that by 70%, even 30x. This is undervalued and it's underwater, and it's a good time to grab yourself a bit of Heroes of Mavia. Purely because, like I said, I've showed you, look at this. This is very good lineup of people and companies, and of course it could do very well. Now let's have a look at Metacade, because Metacade is promoted. They actively promote their product. They work with a lot of KOLs, and of course, as such, the market cap has ballooned to 30 million plus. Still relatively small, but they've made significant moves within the base ecosystem. And for that reason, I do believe Metacade has a very, very good chance of pumping with Base, and Base is absolutely ridiculous. So we are proud to announce that Metacade has been selected as a partner of Base and Coinbase to launch their new L3 app chain. So this is going to be readily available on the app chain. I do believe it does really well. I could see a 20x for this, perhaps a little bit more. And, you know, Mcade is less risky than some of the other degen ones that I've given you. So let's have a look at Metacade. They've already announced these partnerships. $100 million, that's 3.5x. If it gets to $1 billion and, you know, works really well on the app chain, it gets to about 57 cents. I think it's going to do very well. But even if you say it does 30 cents from here, you're still looking at a fantastic 20x return for your money. Therefore, I would jump straight into considering that, you know, based on the fact that they've made their biggest ever and they will be part of app chain. Okay, now let's go a little bit more degen. Okay, let's have a look at Bloodloop or BLS. Okay, so this had a fantastic fundraising. This is meant to be one of those plays that is like Shrapnel, like off the grid. But as a result of the market and the way they structured their investing, it was absolutely awful and it did not do anything of significance. Of course, we did talk about S-Fun. Let me just close these. Okay, so Bloodloop is very risky, incredibly risky. In fact, it's so risky, it's just at 400K market cap. But this is how 100Xs are made, guys. I'm telling you now, this is something to look at, exactly like Corpo Games, exactly like Shrapnel. And of course, it does have a bit of a backing as well. So this is not one of those projects, but it is super risky. You know, it is super risky. What we're looking at is a project that is absolutely tiny micro cap. And if it does, Bloodloop, so what we need to do is compare. So let's go BLS. Sorry, what am I doing with Metacade? So let's have a look at Bloodloop. And you know what? What we'll do is we will look at something like Shrapnel. Okay. So these are both risky micro caps. But if Bloodloop gets to the current market cap of $6 million, you've made nearly 15.16x on your money, right? If it gets to Shrapnel's all-time high, which is absolutely insane, that will be $166 million. And of course, this is a whopping 300, nearly 400x on your money. Now, of course, consider the irrational face of the market. Maybe the project doesn't do any of that. Maybe it does nothing like that. And it gets to just $1. You're still going to make life-changing money, my friends. Okay, so do not ignore some of these smaller plays. Now, the next one I'm looking at is, again, I'm kind of like, I've tried to see any kind of activity online, right? Any significant marketing. Now, the leader of Corpo is quite a visible guy. Now, Corpo Games is, again, Shrapnel, Bloodloop, Corpo. They are all very much similar in terms of a first-person shoot-up and, of course, guns and everything else, violence. Now, this is at a $4 million market cap. Trading volume, 24 hours, at least is over $1 million, right? So there is life left in this. Again, it was one of those that came out with very good backing initially. And of course, they've done a revamp and everything else. But unfortunately, the market hasn't been kind to them. And therefore, you know, right now it's the lowest it's ever been. Okay. So what can we look to do with Corpo? Well, let's compare this to Shrapnel. Still way smaller than Shrapnel, but, you know, 1.5x. But what I'm looking at is this breaking $100 million, right? So again, if we target 166 million, notice how modest it is. And in this goes back to 38 cents. You're making 40x on your returns. It could do more than that. Okay. It could potentially do way more than that. So there are more. There's Portal. There's too many to go under or to go over. But what I'm actually, there's Alephium as well, which is now completely bled out. I think it's at $12. there's many games to talk about, but I would look at these, risk to reward. I would find 1 or 2 projects for my video, and I would just load up on that regardless and save anchor so you don't miss the gaming run, potentially with maybe a larger cap because they're still beaten up. All right, guys, what are you holding? It should really be a part 2 to this because I've got another 10 potential games to review, like Zentry. So it could take me forever to do this video, but I do hope you're starting to see why crypto gaming will be making you tons of money. All right, take care, guys.